Just because you got a DJI Pocket 3 doesn't mean you're gonna get good footage. So in this video, I wanna show you the difference between pro gimbal moves and beginner gimbal moves to show you how much better your footage will be when you put a little bit of thought into it. So I'm out here in San Juan Capistrano, which is home to one of the oldest missions in California. We just got off the train and I'm gonna go walk around the mission, shoot a bunch of gimbal shots, and do it both as a beginner and as a pro. So let's head into the mission and shoot some of this footage. Number 1, use intentional motion. So check out the beginner. He's just kind of wandering around, pointing the gimbal at everything that looks interesting without any specific intention with each shot. Now here comes the pro, and he's gonna look at the scene and try to find interesting angles that he wants to shoot before even pressing record. It looks like there's a good shot over here showing the landscape, so he's gonna do a slider shot from left to right. And this is a very intentional movement that's only going in one direction. Number 2, grab a variety of shot sizes. So wherever you're at, you're gonna wanna try to get different shot sizes and not always just use a wide shot. It's easy with a camera like the Pocket 3 to always just get big, wide landscape style shots because of the 20mm lens. However, you need to get yourself closer to your subject. So the beginner, he's just walking around getting the big wide shots from eye level, whereas you see the pro going in for close-ups, actually getting close to objects and really seeing some detail rather than standing back and always just getting something from that wider perspective. Now, if you're struggling to figure out different shot sizes, you can use the 9-shot rule. 2 extreme wide shots, 2 wide shots, 2 medium shots, 2 close-up shots, and 1 unique angle. Use these 9 shots whenever you get to a scene and you'll have more than enough footage to cut a little sequence out of this footage. Number 3, get reaction shots. So check out the beginner here. He has the camera pointed away from himself, just filming everything in the distance. And yeah, some of these shots are gonna look pretty good, but you wanna add that touch of a human element. So whether you're shooting something like a vlog or even something like a documentary, you wanna make sure to turn the camera around and film people and get the reactions as they're moving through the space. You wanna be able to create some sort of human connection when you're making your video. Now, number 4 is use foreground elements. Here comes the beginner. He just walked through this really cool arch to film this fountain and these bells in the distance. But as he's shooting this big wide shot again, the most interesting thing is behind him. Not every shot needs to be super clean. Rather, here comes the pro. He's gonna use these elements of the arch and this plant to dirty his frame, which means there's gonna be foreground elements that cover over the footage, so it's not just a big wide shot again. And then he walks forward into the location. So you have a lot of movement with the gimbal showing these foreground elements passing by the lens. So when you're coming up with your shots, try to find some interesting ways to dirty up your frame. Number 5, plant your feet. When you're working with a gimbal, oftentimes you'll keep wanting to walk with that gimbal because it is a stable camera. However, sometimes you just want to plant your feet and get a panning shot or a tilting shot. For this shot here, there's a sign of the entrance. And the beginner, he's just walking around trying to get a moving shot because, well, he thinks that's going to look good. But really, the movement in this shot doesn't really add a whole lot. Whereas the pro, he plants his feet in one spot and uses the movement of the gimbal from either a tilt down or a pan across to be able to get a more interesting shot that's going to be a great opening to this scene. Now, before we get into number 6, I just want to mention that all of these shots were filmed using D-Log-M, and I've color graded all of this footage using my set of adventure LUTs. And I have a whole set of LUTs that were specifically created for DJI Pocket 3 D-Log-M footage. And in my pack of adventure LUTs, you have a conversion LUT that goes from this log looking footage to more of a standard look. And then I have my creative LUTs that you add on top of that to give you a completely different look to your footage. Now, if you're trying to save time, I've combined both of these LUTs together in a set of quick grades, and those are included in these LUTs as well. So you can instantly just add them straight onto your footage and you have an instant color grade, so you can spend less time color grading and more time working on the rest of your video. All right, so let's talk about the biggest mistake that creators make with the DJI Pocket 3. And so this is number 6, not controlling the Z-axis. The DJI Pocket 3 stabilizes in 3 directions: tilt, pan, and roll. However, it does not stabilize up and down motion, which is called your Z-axis. This is stabilized by the way that you walk and the way that you hold this gimbal. So for the beginner, he's just walking through this church and not really paying attention to the Z-axis or his arm moving up and down. You can see there's a lot of bumps in this footage, and it doesn't really look that good. And oftentimes you'll hear about beginners complaining about gimbals saying that the Z-axis isn't stable, when the reality is it just takes a little bit of practice to control this because no 3-axis gimbal gets rid of the Z-axis bounce. It takes practice and control. Here comes the pro. He's walking much smoother, heel-toeing his feet so that there's no bounce in his step. And also he's paying a lot of attention to how he's holding that gimbal out in front of him, trying to keep it as stable as possible. With the DJI Pocket 3, it's so small that it's easy to bounce up and down with the Z-axis, so you have to have even more control with your arm to be able to eliminate this bounce in your footage. Number 7. Change your height. Oftentimes when you're filming with a gimbal, it's gonna feel natural to just put it right in front of your face and do a walking shot. This is the easiest way to see the gimbal. I mean, look at the beginner here. It's right at his face, he's looking at the screen, so it's gonna be a good shot, right? Well, maybe. If when you look at the pro, he gets himself in some different positions. He's gonna get super low so he can get shots close to objects, like these train tracks. And he's changing the height of how he's using this gimbal so that he can get a wide variety of shots, rather than everything from eye level, always shooting the same wide shot. Number 8, use filters. So there's a few different styles of filters that you can get with the Pocket 3. You have the wide lens attachment, you have mist filters, and also you can add on some ND filters. Now the beginner, he shoots all auto with his camera in every situation. And you can see that the exposure and the color is bouncing around. And also there's no motion blur because we're shooting in daylight. Whereas the pro, this entire time has been using ND filters in front of his lens, and he's been controlling his exposure. So everything has motion blur in it. If you can see from the sample here, this is a shot without any motion blur. And then when you apply the ND filter, this is a shot with motion blur. And the reason that you want to have motion blur in your footage is that it's going to make it feel more like a movie. It's going to feel more cinematic. And so the pro has been using ND filters for every shot, and he's had his shutter at 1/60th, which is double that of his frame rate. So everything is going to have natural motion blur, whereas the beginner, he's shooting at a high shutter speed, so everything is going to have a little bit of jitter to it. Number 9, wait for the perfect moment. Whenever you pull up your camera and press record, it doesn't mean it's the perfect time to film. You see the beginner here walking down the train tracks. He wants to get a shot of the train, but there's no train. So he's just gonna walk and get a shot of the empty train tracks and then move on to something else. Whereas the pro, he's gonna sit around and wait. The pro knows that the shot that you want in this situation is the train coming into the train station. So he's gonna go figure out the train schedule and then plan the shot that he wants to do when the train arrives. So then as the train starts barreling down the tracks, he's ready and gets the perfect shot. Now, number 10, you wanna repeat shots again and again. The beginner is gonna hit record, grab the shot, and move on without even looking at his footage. Check out the beginner here. He's just getting his shot and then he moves on. Whereas the pro, he's gonna film once and then look at that shot and tweak it, try to do something a little bit different. Repeat the same shot a few more times until he gets it perfect. This way he knows that he's always gonna have the right footage when he gets into his edit. So I have one more big mistake that creators make with their Pocket 3, but before we get into that, let's look at the footage side by side. First, I'm gonna cut a sequence all out of the beginner footage, and then after that, I'm gonna put all the pro footage together to show you the difference between the two. So could you tell the difference between both of those edits? Now, the biggest mistake that creators make with the Pocket 3 or any other camera is focusing too much on the gear and not enough on what you're actually filming or the story. I would rather watch a video with bad visuals that tells a really good story than a video that is technically perfect but has no reason to why I'm watching this video. It's just pretty footage. So the biggest thing that you want to focus on is the idea and what it is that you're creating, and not always so much about the technical side of things and making everything perfect. Now, if you want to see a complete beginner's guide to the DJI Pocket 3, make sure you check out this video right here. And also, if you want to see a video that's going to help you with your storytelling techniques, then check out this video right here. I'll see you on the next one.